Usually, when you hit a major life milestone, the cultural script we're all kind of handed is pretty simple. Like, you cross the finish line, you pop the champagne, you call your family, you hold up the trophy for everyone to see.
Right, it's a huge celebration. And it's very public.
Exactly. It's entirely visible.
Uh-huh.
But when you step into the world of sudden financial success,
Yeah.
suddenly that script gets flipped completely on its head. The champagne stays corked, the trophy gets like hidden in the attic.
Which goes against everything we're taught to do, really.
Right. Because according to this fascinating breakdown by a creator named Good Joseph, the absolute worst thing you can do is tell anyone you actually won the race. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at his video, 10 Financial Secrets Never Tell Anyone.
Yeah, it's a really compelling watch.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to explore the unexpected psychology of wealth and relationships. To understand exactly why complete financial transparency might actually be terrible advice for your personal life. So, okay, let's unpack this because, like you said, we're taught to celebrate with the people we love. But this source argues that keeping your mouth shut is the ultimate financial strategy.
Yeah, it really challenges this modern ethos of, radical transparency. I mean, we live in an era where people literally post their bank balances and their stock portfolios online,
All the time on social media.
right, under the guise of being authentic or educational or whatever. But the argument here is that this transparency is actually a trap. Like, we're taught that sharing good news is how we connect with people.
Yeah.
But when that good news is tied to a specific dollar amount, the entire psychological landscape beneath your relationships, it shifts instantly.
That shift is exactly what I want to dig into first,
Mhm.
specifically regarding the most obvious urge, which is, the desire to brag or flex when you hit a major milestone.
Oh, the flex.
Yeah, like you finally see that comma or those two commas in your bank account and you are so excited, you want to share your net worth or your liquid cash. But Joseph considers sharing that information a cardinal sin. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the mechanism here. Why is stating a literal fact about your bank account so destructive?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the presence of liquid capital alters the social mechanics of a room. Like, when you reveal those hard numbers, you are no longer just a person with an achievement.
Right, you become something else entirely.
Exactly. You become a metric. You become a benchmark. Joseph explicitly points out that sharing this information attracts unnecessary competition, comparison and enmity.
It's like walking around with a giant neon price tag on your forehead.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
You think you're just sharing good news, but you're actually advertising a resource. Think of it like this. Revealing your liquid cash is like changing the gravity in the room. Suddenly, every interaction you have with your peers is subtly pulled toward that mass.
Because liquid cash implies immediate capability, right? I mean, it's not a house they can't touch. It's money sitting right there, ready to be deployed.
Precisely. If you casually mention to a friend that you have 500,000 sitting in the bank to start a business, you've instantly transformed yourself in their eyes.
You're not just their buddy anymore.
No, you're not just a peer navigating the struggles of life alongside them. You are a potential bank or a potential investor, or worse, a target for resentment.
Because it disrupts the equilibrium you guys had.
Exactly. When you grew up with these people, you shared a baseline of resources and struggles. If you suddenly elevate far past that baseline, it forces them to evaluate their own position. And that often breeds a very quiet, very potent kind of jealousy.
Which honestly explains the advice on how to handle your next big purchase. Because the source material argues that if you're going to buy a car or a piece of land, you just go buy it. You do not announce your intentions beforehand.
Right, the next big move secret.
Yeah, the 10th secret. And when people finally see the new car, you're supposed to downplay it. Like, call it a liability. Say it's draining your gas budget. But I have to push back here a little bit.
Go for it.
Aren't we building a remarkably lonely life if we view every friend as a potential parasite? Like, how is hiding your success and downplaying your life better than just setting healthy boundaries when people ask for money? Shouldn't we trust our friends to just be happy for us?
That's a super fair pushback. But I think we have to separate idealism from, pragmatic human psychology. It isn't about paranoia.
Okay.
And it isn't about assuming your friends are inherently bad people. It's an acknowledgement that willpower and boundaries are exhausting to maintain.
Oh, that's true. Saying no is draining.
Very draining. Yes, you could announce your wealth and then fiercely defend your boundaries every single time someone asks for a loan or a handout. But why invite the siege in the first place?
Right, why put yourself through that?
It's exactly. Announcing a big move before it happens invites opinions, envy, and interference into a process that hasn't even materialized yet.
So downplaying the new car as a liability, saying the insurance is killing you, it isn't about lying to your friends. It's more of a social de-escalation tactic.
Precisely. It neutralizes the threat your success poses to their ego.
Hmm.
When you complain about the insurance costs of the new car, you're throwing them a psychological lifeline.
You're letting them feel better about not having the car.
Yes, you are allowing them to think, well, maybe I don't have the fancy car, but at least I don't have his insane insurance bill. It allows the social equilibrium to reset without causing a permanent fracture in the friendship.
Wow, okay. That makes the shift from peers to family even more complicated, though. We've talked about protecting your social circle by hiding liquid cash, but the psychological threat multiplies when we look at ongoing income.
Oh, absolutely.
Like specifically your salary and how you communicate that to your parents, because the instinct is that you owe it to your parents to tell them you're succeeding, right? They raised you.
Right. But the source material provides a brilliant and honestly kind of wild case study that perfectly illustrates why that instinct can be incredibly dangerous.
Oh, the story about the guy in Kenya? That was wild.
Yeah, because it comes down to the concept of the black tax, which is a term often used to describe the heavy financial obligation placed on successful individuals by their extended family. It's very common in developing economies, but the psychology applies everywhere.
Yeah, the story that really brought this to life for me was about a man in Kenya who lands a job making 300,000 Kenyan shillings a month.
Which is roughly 3,000 US dollars. A really fantastic salary.
Right, and he is thrilled. So he goes to his parents, who are in their 50s and doing subsistence farming, just to proudly share the good news. He just wants them to know their sacrifices paid off.
And their reaction is just a masterclass in cognitive dissonance.
It blew my mind.
The moment they hear that specific number, they completely stop working. They literally drop their farming tools.
Because to them, the sun just became an infinite resource. I was so fascinated by the math they did in their heads. Not because of the actual numbers, but because of the vast difference in their financial realities.
Exactly. The context is everything.
Right. The parents lived in a world of finite daily labor. They hear a salary number that is astronomically higher than their living expenses, and they instantly assume their son's capital is basically an endless pension plan.
They figure, he's unmarried, he doesn't have many expenses.
Yeah, they literally reasoned he could effortlessly give them $100,000, keep $200,000 for himself, and everyone would be totally fine indefinitely.
And I mean, it's entirely logical from their perspective. They aren't trying to be malicious or greedy.
No, not at all.
But the son unknowingly signed up to be their permanent financial engine simply by giving them a status update.
Yeah.
And this is where the friction of boundary setting with family becomes nearly impossible.
Because it's family. You can't just cut them off easily.
Right. Once you open that door and become the sole provider, closing it causes a massive, sometimes irreparable, emotional rift.
Because if you need that money back later, like say you want to start a business or get married and have your own children, they don't see it as you keeping your own money anymore.
No, they see it as you taking their money away from them.
Wow. Which explains Joseph's drastic advice to counter this. He says if you absolutely must share your income with your family, the strategy is to state that you make less than half of what you actually bring in.
Less than half. And then you immediately pair it with the complaint about your high living expenses.
So you're basically creating an artificial ceiling of capability.
Yes, you are managing their expectations of your surplus. By stating a lower number and highlighting your liabilities, you prevent them from mentally reallocating your wealth into their own budgets.
That's so smart.
It really is. It preserves the relationship by preventing the dependency from ever forming in the first place.
Okay, so keeping quiet about your liquid cash protects your friendships, and managing the perception of your ongoing income protects your familial peace.
Exactly.
But let's transition from the money you already have to the blueprint of how you actually make it. Because protecting your current assets is one thing, but protecting your intellectual property, like your investment strategies, is an entirely different psychological battlefield.
Yeah, the source refers to this as protecting your stronghold.
Your stronghold, I like that.
Yeah. The specific mechanics of how you generate your wealth, the trade routes, the specific real estate angles, the exact supplier you use for your business, all of that must remain absolutely private.
There is a personal anecdote in the material that really highlights the danger here. The creator, Joseph, talks about a time he shared a fully written business plan with some acquaintances.
Right, he just handed it over.
Yeah, he thought he was just brainstorming, perhaps showing off a bit of his strategic thinking. But they took the plan, went behind his back, and executed the entire business model without him.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's most revealing is not the betrayal itself, but his reaction to it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
He states explicitly that he does not blame them.
I found that reaction incredibly hard to swallow. Like, most people would be furious. They'd be plotting revenge or at least burning those bridges publicly. How do you just not blame someone for stealing your intellectual property?
Well, because blaming them assumes that the world operates on a moral honor system when it comes to capital. And it doesn't.
Fair point.
By saying they want to win and there's nothing wrong with them winning, he's shifting the entire burden of responsibility away from their morality and placing it squarely on his own lack of operational security.
Oh, wow. That is a tough pill to swallow.
It's a harsh realization, but a necessary one. The world is competitive, people act in their own self-interest, and therefore the onus is entirely on you to protect your stronghold. You cannot hand someone a blueprint to wealth and then be outraged when they go the house.
That totally reframes how you look at networking. And it also explains his warning about people who loudly invite you to make money with them.
Well, the social media gurus.
Right. The people who are constantly shouting on social media or at parties to come see how they made $1 million in a week.
Yeah, if we look at the reality, real wealth-generating strategies are quietly guarded. If someone possesses a genuine high-yield advantage in a market, sharing the exact mechanism of that advantage only invites market saturation and direct competition.
It waters down their own profits.
Exactly. Therefore, those who are loudly inviting you in are generally not trying to help you win. They're looking to make money off of you, not with you. In those scenarios, you are the product.
That makes perfect sense. And that concept of guarding the blueprint extends to future wealth, too. Specifically, inheritance.
Oh, yes. A very tricky subject.
Very. The source outlines a very clear rule against ever bragging about what was left to you. Or if you're an older parent, never bragging to your less fortunate friends about the massive estate you plan to leave your kids.
It just invites so much unnecessary envy.
And the strategy for deflecting inheritance questions, if people do find out, is just brilliant.
It really is a masterclass in narrative control.
Yes, because if people somehow find out you inherited something, the human instinct is to either proudly confirm it or just awkwardly avoid it. But the tactic suggested here is to shrug it off and say something like, yeah, something was left, but it's a very complicated family. We have like 10 kids out there, half siblings, so by the time the lawyers are done, it gets really diminished.
Right. And the reason that works so effectively is because it replaces a narrative of unearned luxury with a narrative of bureaucratic familial burden.
Which nobody wants.
Exactly. People deeply envy sudden, effortless wealth. They do not envy legal fees, probate courts, and sibling rivalries. By injecting the concept of stress into the windfall, the jealousy of your peers instantly dissipates. You've given them a reason to pity you rather than envy you.
That is so clever. But okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We've established how to protect money you've planned for, worked for, or anticipated. But the psychological threat goes entirely off the charts when the money is completely unearned, unexpected, and sudden.
The windfalls.
Yes. Secret 7. Major windfalls. Like winning a bet, getting a massive unexpected bonus, or an inheritance you really didn't see coming.
This is perhaps the most dangerous category of all, precisely because it bypasses all your normal psychological defenses.
Because it happened so fast.
Right. When you build wealth slowly, you slowly adapt to the social changes. When it happens overnight, the social fallout is incredibly volatile.
And the source shares a really dark, tragic reality from a Kenyan town to illustrate this. A man won a massive life-changing bet, and in his excitement, he immediately showed his friends his winnings.
Which is such a natural human reaction.
It is, but the deeply sobering reality is that he lost his life because of it. He was killed by the very people he thought he was celebrating with.
It is a horrific outcome, but it underscores the extreme end of the baseline disruption we discussed earlier. When a group of friends bonds over shared financial hardship, there's a deep psychological comfort in that shared struggle.
Patrauma bond almost.
Exactly. The underlying agreement is, life is hard, but we are in this together.
The video even points out that when you complain about having no money, you can almost see a subtle sense of relief on your friends' faces. Not because they want you to suffer, but because they feel reassured that you haven't left them behind.
Yeah, it's about safety in numbers. So when one person in that group suddenly receives a massive windfall, the immediate emotional response from the rest of the group isn't pure joy.
What is it? Panic.
Yes, the primary emotion is panic. The unspoken thought is you are going to elevate your life, leave this environment, and leave us behind. To prevent that abandonment, or sometimes out of pure, unadulterated resentment, people will instinctively try to pull you back down so you remain on their level.
Wow. Which brings us to the ultimate survival mechanism for a windfall. Joseph calls it the 6-month rule.
A very necessary rule.
The directive is that if you get a sudden influx of cash, you freeze your lifestyle entirely for half a year. You do not buy land. You do not buy a car. You don't even upgrade your wardrobe. You just sit in silence.
That cooling off period is physiologically and psychologically vital.
Physiologically.
Yeah, sudden wealth creates a massive dopamine and adrenaline response in the brain. It quite literally impairs your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational decision-making and risk assessment.
So you literally aren't thinking straight.
Exactly. You feel invincible. The 6-month rule forces you to endure that physiological spike without making permanent financial or social decisions. You allow the emotional state to subside so the rational state can return.
And the only exception the source makes is for a clear distress sale, like an undeniable investment opportunity that requires immediate capital. But otherwise, you maintain the absolute illusion of the shared struggle. You protect the money by hiding the fact that you no longer have to struggle.
Which neatly transitions into the final and perhaps most subtle form of protection. Because protecting your wealth isn't just about hiding the numbers. It's about hiding the psychological access points to that wealth.
Right. Secret 8. The directive to never share your financial weaknesses or emotional triggers. I found this fascinating because we often share these things to seem relatable, you know?
We do it all the time.
We say things like, oh, I am so bad with money, or I can never say no when it comes to a sick child, or I always feel compelled to support my church or my pastor. We think we are just being vulnerable or showing empathy.
But in reality, you are handing the world a customized blueprint for your own manipulation.
It's so dangerous when you think about it.
It really is. You're broadcasting the exact emotional levers someone needs to pull to bypass your financial boundaries.
The source specifically points out that con artists and manipulators actively listen for these exact triggers. If they know your weakness is a religious figure, they won't come to you with a traditional business pitch.
No, they'll adapt.
Right, they'll approach you with a spiritual angle, offering to pray for you or claiming a divine need, specifically to extract that capital.
Exactly. You're telling them exactly which mask to wear to get into your vault.
Yeah.
And speaking of vaults, this concept of protecting access points extends perfectly to the digital realm, too.
Secret 6, the absolute no-brainers.
Right. The source notes that it is an absolute baseline necessity to never share your security information. Your PINs, your online banking passwords, your one-time passwords.
It seems almost too obvious to mention, honestly. But in the context of this entire discussion, giving someone your PIN isn't just a tactical error, it's the ultimate surrender of your boundaries.
Exactly.
If someone has digital access, every other psychological wall we've discussed today becomes completely irrelevant.
Yeah, the digital boundary is merely a physical manifestation of the emotional boundaries we've been unpacking. Whether it's your mother, assuming she has a right to your salary, a friend feeling entitled to your windfall, or someone literally holding your banking password, the threat is identical. It's unauthorized access to your resources.
So, what does this all mean? When we step back and look at the totality of this advice, hiding your liquid cash, carefully managing the perception of your income with your family, keeping your blueprints locked down, freezing your lifestyle after a windfall, and hiding your deepest empathetic triggers, it paints a very specific picture of how to navigate the world.
A very cautious picture.
Yes. Good Joseph's advice isn't about being deceitful. It isn't about hoarding wealth out of greed. It's fundamentally about boundary setting. It's about actively protecting your peace, preserving your relationships, and shielding your assets from the deeply unpredictable and often envious nature of human expectation.
And this raises an important question, something for you, the listener, to really mull over as we wrap up today.
Let's hear it.
We are constantly sold a narrative that wealth is synonymous with visibility. We think of success as something that affords us the luxury of being loud, flashy, and universally celebrated by our peers. But the evidence here suggests the exact opposite. What if true financial freedom actually demands invisibility?
Man, that really forces you to examine your own motivations. If you really think about it, how much of our desire to spend money, to share our milestones, or to announce our next big move is simply a deep-seated need for external validation?
Exactly. What are we really looking for?
And what happens to your relationship with your own success when you completely remove the audience? Because
Yeah.
if you cross that finish line and you decide not to pop the champagne and you take that trophy and you hide it in the attic where nobody else will ever see it, you have to ask yourself, is the victory still enough for you?